Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Topikia Inner Clarity. I'm your host, and I'm so glad you could join us today.
It's great to be here.
We're going to be stepping away from, the daily grind for a little bit. We want to look at the bigger picture, specifically the timeline of your life.
And timeline is really the key word for today's deep dive. We're getting into something that I think it kind of haunts a lot of people.
Oh, absolutely.
Usually at like 3 in the morning when you can't sleep.
Yes, that's exactly the feeling. I want to start there with that very specific feeling. I think you'll recognize it, even if it's not something you talk about at dinner parties.
Right.
It's that gnawing, low-level panic that just whispers in your ear.
You're behind.
You're behind.
Yeah.
You look at your age, then you look at your achievements, and there's a gap.
A big one.
It feels like everyone else got the instruction manual when they were 18, and you're still just trying to figure out the table of contents.
That is what the research calls the silent clock. It's this invisible pressure that society just hangs over all of our heads. It says if you haven't built an empire by 30,
or made your first million by 40,
or found the perfect partner by 25, you're basically expiring. You're like shelf-stable goods that have gone bad.
It's suffocating. But our mission today is to explore a very different angle on this. We've pulled together a lot of research analytical psychology, Carl Jung, modern personality theory, and some really compelling anecdotal evidence that suggests something pretty radical.
Yeah, it really turns the whole idea on its head.
What if that feeling of being behind isn't actually a failure? What if you're not failing the race?
But you're actually running on a completely different track altogether.
Exactly. It's a huge shift in perspective.
A profound one. We're exploring the idea that sort of the most complex minds, what the research calls rare souls or intuitives, are, architecturally designed to bloom late.
So we are talking about the late bloomers, but not in that lazy sense of the word.
No, not at all. This isn't about procrastination.
We're talking about the architectural necessity of delay. So today, we're going to break down Jung's concept of the morning and afternoon of life.
We'll also get into the difference between what looks like laziness and what is actually gestation.
And this really mysterious alchemical process called individuation.
So the thesis for our deep dive is, well, it's pretty simple. Delay is not a defect.
Delay is not a defect.
It's a structural requirement for a massive destiny.
Structural requirement. I really like that framing. It makes me feel less like a procrastinator and more like, a major construction project.
That's a great way to put it, a cathedral in progress.
Okay, so let's get into it. We have to start with the foundation for all of this, which the research points back to Carl Jung's division of life. He didn't just see it as a straight line, did he?
No, not at all. That's a very modern sort of linear way of thinking. Jung viewed the human lifespan as two very distinct chapters.
Right.
And they're separated by a massive psychological shift. He called them the morning of life and the afternoon of life.
And the critical thing to understand here, and I think this is where most of us get tripped up, is that these two periods operate under completely different laws of physics, so to speak.
Exactly. They have different goals, different values, different measures of success.
Okay, so let's talk about the morning. This is roughly from birth to, what? Around age 40?
Roughly, yes. It varies, of course, but it usually ends somewhere between 35 and 45. But the key is that the morning of life is governed by one specific force.
And that is?
Biology. Nature.
When you say nature, you don't mean just, going for a hike in the woods.
No. I mean the biological imperative, the raw evolutionary drive.
Okay.
Just think about it from an evolutionary standpoint. What is the primary job of a young human animal?
It's expansion. It's survival.
It's about establishing a foothold in the material world. You need to separate from your parents. You need to build a strong ego.
Find a mate, secure resources.
Build a nest, protect your territory. It's all very primal.
It's survival of the fittest. It's all about doing.
It is entirely extroverted.
Yep.
All the energy is directed outward. You're grabbing pieces of the world and saying, this part is mine.
And society, which is just a big collective survival mechanism.
Right. It rewards a very specific skill set during this morning phase because that skill set serves the collective survival.
And that skill set is speed,
decisiveness, and crucially, conformity.
You have to fit in.
To succeed in the morning of life, you need to be able to pick a path quickly and just run down it without looking back too much. You need to be able to wear a mask.
A mask, you mean like fake it till you make it?
In a way, Jung had a specific term for it. The persona.
The persona.
The persona is the social face you present to the world. It's a kind of mask designed, on the one hand, to make a definite impression on others.
And on the other hand,
to conceal the true nature of the individual. In the morning of life, having a good, functional persona is vital. You have to be the good student, the reliable employee.
the normal person. Right. You put on the suit, you smile at the boss, you follow the syllabus. And for a lot of people, this actually works pretty well.
It does. The research often links this to sensors in the Myers-Briggs system, people who are naturally attuned to the physical, present reality.
They put on the mask, it fits comfortably enough, and they win the prizes that the morning of life offers.
Precisely. They're happy to play the role because the role rewards them with status, money, a sense of belonging.
But this is where we hit the wall.
This is the exact point of conflict for the demographic we're talking about today, the rare types, the intuitives.
Why do they struggle so deeply in this morning phase?
The research uses this incredible analogy that it really stuck with me. It describes these individuals as deep sea divers forced to race in a wading pool.
That is such a tragic image, isn't it?
It's perfect.
It really is. Imagine you've got all this heavy, specialized gear, oxygen tanks, weights, a thermal suit, all of it designed for deep, dark, high-pressure environments.
And then someone drops you in 2 feet of water and yells, "On your mark, get set, sprint."
You're gonna look ridiculous. You'll be clumsy, you'll be slow.
Meanwhile, the people in swim trunks, the ones who are actually adapted for the surface, they're just sprinting past you, splashing water in your face.
The morning of life asks for surface area coverage. It asks, how many things can you get done today?
But the intuitive mind isn't built for that. It's built for depth. It's asking a totally different question.
It's asking, what do these things even mean?
Precisely. And that's a liability in the morning.
There was this thread in the research, I think it was from a Reddit discussion, where people were talking about this exact frustration in their early jobs. One person described it as this total inability to just do tasks by rote memorization. They said, I can't just follow the steps.
I need to understand the system.
Yes, I need to know the why before I can even move my hands.
That is the classic bottleneck of introverted intuition. In a typical school environment or an entry-level job, asking why is seen as inefficient.
It's annoying.
It's very annoying to the people in charge. The teacher just wants you to solve for X.
Yeah.
The boss just wants you to file the report.
They don't want you to deconstruct the philosophical validity of their filing system.
Chuckles. Exactly. Just put the paper in the folder.
But the intuitive cannot just put the paper in the folder. Their brain doesn't allow it.
It doesn't. They need to build a complete mental model of the entire ecosystem before they can feel safe or even capable of acting within it.
So while the linear thinkers are racing ahead because they just accept the data as it's given,
the rare type is still stalled at the starting line because they're trying to understand the fundamental physics of the racetrack itself.
And to the outside world, from your boss's perspective, that just looks like hesitation. Or worse, it looks like stupidity.
It looks like they're slow. It looks like they just don't get it. But what's really happening is a deep, instinctual refusal to engage in what feels like meaningless action.
They're one beat off.
That phrase from the research, one beat off, it resonates so deeply. It's that feeling of being perpetually out of sync with your peers, while your friends are getting excited about their first promotion or buying a starter home.
The rare personality is sitting in a corner dismantling their own belief systems.
Or having an existential crisis about the ethics of the industry they just entered.
They see the cracks in the system that everyone else just seems to ignore or not even notice.
Because they process reality in such a high resolution, they see the hypocrisy. They see the lack of genuine meaning.
And it is very, very hard to enthusiastically participate in a game when you're painfully aware that the game is rigged.
Or that the prize at the end isn't actually worth having in the first place.
So because of all this, they struggle to wear the persona. The mask keeps slipping off.
Or it suffocates them. Jung actually had a stark warning about this. He said, what adapts too easily often lacks a true self. Think about what that implies. The very fact that these types cannot adapt easily, the fact that they feel broken and awkward and out of place in the morning of life.
That's actually evidence of a very strong inner core.
Exactly. It's evidence of an undeveloped but very strong true self. A self that is so large and so specific that it just refuses to be shoved into a generic one-size-fits-all box.
So the pain of not fitting in It's not a bug, it's a feature. It's a sign of structural integrity.
It is. But try telling that to a 25-year-old who just got fired for not being a team player.
Right. It just feels like failure.
It feels like you're defective. You're judging a submarine by its ability to drive on the highway.
And the submarine is just sitting there on the asphalt resting.
Exactly.
Okay, so we've established the conflict. The morning of life is a really bad fit for these types. But we need to dig into the why. Why does their mind work this way? The research uses this central analogy that I think is just beautiful.
The oak versus the grass.
Yes. The oak tree does not grow at the speed of the grass.
This is the fundamental difference in what you could call structural intent. Think about grass. You plant grass seed, and what happens?
2 weeks later, you have a green lawn.
It grows incredibly fast. It covers the surface area immediately. It's highly successful in the morning.
But there's always a but.
But it has shallow roots. If a drought comes, it withers and dies. If a hard winter comes, it dies. It's fragile.
It's built for speed, not endurance.
Precisely. Now look at an oak tree. You plant an acorn, and for the first few years, what do you see above the ground?
Basically nothing. A little twig.
A twig, a couple of leaves. You could step on it and then snap it in half without even noticing. If you compare that oak sapling to the field of grass.
The oak looks like a total failure. It's slow, it's vulnerable.
But what is happening underground where you can't see it?
It's digging, it's building the foundation.
It's building a massive, complex root system. It's preparing itself to hold up tons and tons of wood and leaves for hundreds of years.
You cannot rush the foundation of a cathedral.
You can't. If you try to build a cathedral on the foundation you'd use for a patch of grass, the whole thing just collapses.
So if you're an oak type, you are intuitively building a cathedral while everyone else is, putting up garden sheds.
Yeah, a shed takes a weekend. The cathedral takes a lifetime.
And you have to be okay with looking like you have nothing to show for it for a very, very long time.
That's the challenge.
Let's get a little more technical here, because
Right.
the research points to a specific cognitive function as the, let's say, culprit or the superpower behind this delay.
Introverted intuition, or NI.
Right. So how does this actually work in the brain? Why does it make people seem so slow?
You can think of introverted intuition as a kind of supercomputer that's constantly running a complex simulation in the background.
Okay.
Most people engage with the world more directly through extroverted sensing or extroverted intuition. They scan the world, see a possibility, and they act.
Stimulus response. It's fast.
It's very efficient for the morning of life. But introverted intuition is depth-seeking. It doesn't want a possibility. It's searching for the correct possibility.
It wants the singular underlying truth.
Yes. They don't just memorize it. They have to ingest it.
The research mentions they aren't just doing the math problem. They're trying to discover the underlying theory of mathematics itself.
Exactly. They are aggregating these vast amounts of unconscious data, emotional patterns, historical context, body language, something they read 10 years ago.
All of it.
And they're trying to synthesize all of that into one single holistic insight.
And that takes an incredible amount of processing power.
And time. The research mentions this Zen-like pattern in the brain where the neocortex has to synchronize to realize an answer.
And from the outside, this looks like nothing.
It looks like stagnation. It looks like the person is just staring at a wall or daydreaming or procrastinating.
But inside,
there is a firestorm of activity. This is what we call subconscious consolidation. The brain is literally rewiring itself to accommodate a whole new worldview.
And then after all that silence comes the click.
The click. This is the payoff. Those Reddit users you mentioned, they described this so vividly. They'd say they felt stupid for months at a new job, struggling to grasp the basic workflow while everyone else just breezed through it.
Right.
But then, one day, the internal model is finally complete. The simulation finishes running. And suddenly, they don't just catch up.
They snowball. They leapfrog everyone.
They go from 0 to 100 practically overnight.
Because they didn't just learn how to do the job. They learned the fundamental structure of the job.
Which means they can now predict problems before they happen. They can innovate new systems. It's exponential growth versus the slow linear growth of their peers.
So the grass grows linearly. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
And the oak grows exponentially. 0, 0, 0, 0, 0, and then 100.
But those 4 beats of 0 are agonizing if you don't understand what's happening internally. You just think you're broken.
You really do.
And there's another factor that slows them down too. The research calls it the burden of consciousness.
Yes, this idea that they're processing high-resolution reality.
What does that mean exactly?
Imagine you're watching a movie. Most people are just watching the plot. They're enjoying the story, following the main characters.
Yeah.
The intuitive is watching the plot, but they're also simultaneously analyzing the lighting choices, the subtext of the dialogue, the historical accuracy of the costumes.
The likely psychological state of the director, and the broader cultural implications of the film's message.
All at once. It sounds exhausting, doesn't it?
It does.
It is. They are processing so much more data per second than the average person. So naturally, their reaction time is going to be slower. They are burdened by nuance.
And this leads to sensory overwhelm, right? This connects to the inferior C.
Yes, exactly. In the Myers-Briggs stack, if your dominant function is that deep internal intuition,
your weakest function is usually say, extroverted sensing,
which governs the immediate, loud, physical, concrete world.
So things like loud noises, chaotic environments, open plan offices.
Absolute kryptonite. Because their minds are tuned to the abstract and the future, the concrete now can be overwhelming.
Too much data coming in all at once.
It leads to what's called analysis paralysis. They have to withdraw to process it all. And in a world that demands constant, fast-paced interaction,
that withdrawal is penalized. It's seen as being antisocial or not a team player.
It's really a double whammy. You're processing deeper, so you're naturally slower, and the environment itself drains your battery twice as fast.
Which is why the morning of life feels like you're constantly running through mud. You are biologically and neurologically ill-equipped for a sprint.
You're built for a marathon that doesn't start until noon.
So naturally, many of these rares wish they could just succeed early. I mean, I know I've felt that. Why can't I just be normal? Why can't I just be successful now?
Of course. It's a very human feeling.
But here's where the research gets really provocative and a little bit scary. It argues that early success would actually be catastrophic for these types.
This is such a radical idea, but it is absolutely essential to grasp this. If a rare personality type succeeds at 25, if they get all the accolades, the money, the perfect societal approval,
they're in grave danger.
That sounds completely counterintuitive. I mean, wouldn't financial freedom give them the space to be themselves?
You would think so. It would solve the anxiety of the ego, yes, but it would kill the soul.
How?
Remember the mask, the persona. If you succeed too early, you solidify the mask. You become trapped in a persona that is way too small for you.
And you start to believe that you are the mask.
Yeah.
You build your entire identity on that external validation.
You get the golden handcuffs.
It's worse than that. You get spiritual handcuffs. You stop growing. You become rigid. Jung believed that the primary goal of the second half of life is to become who you really are, a process he called individuation. If you get too comfortable in who you pretend to be in the first half, you will never make that crucial transition.
You'll just stay on the surface.
And you'll wake up at 50 with a midlife crisis that completely destroys you. Because the distance between your mask and your soul has become an unbridgeable chasm.
So all those failures in your 20s, the jobs that didn't work out, the relationships that felt wrong but you couldn't explain why.
They are protection mechanisms. Your psyche, your deep self, is unconsciously sabotaging paths that are not authentic to you.
It's refusing to let you settle for a false life.
That's such a powerful reframe. I'm thinking of that Reddit user who mentioned feeling naive or childish because they couldn't play the social games at work. They felt like they were failing at being an adult.
But that very inability to play the game is what saved them from getting stuck in the game forever.
It preserved their integrity in a way.
It kept them fluid. It kept them searching. If they had been good at playing the game, they would have won a prize they didn't actually want.
It's like the universe or your own soul is whispering, "No, not this. Keep looking. This room is too small for you."
Precisely. And that keeping looking phase, that period of searching, brings us to what is probably the darkest part of the entire journey.
The alchemists had a name for it, the negrito.
The blackening.
It is the most difficult stage. In alchemy, before you can create gold, the philosopher's stone, the base material has to be broken down. It must rot. It must blacken.
It has to be reduced to its most primal, chaotic state.
Yes. And this corresponds to that period of deep isolation and loneliness that so many of these types report feeling in their late 20s and 30s.
It's an incubation period.
But from the inside, it doesn't feel like incubation. It feels like decomposition.
You feel like you're falling apart.
You are. You're being stripped of all your illusions. You're metabolizing generational trauma. You're separating your true self from the expectations of your parents, your teachers, your culture. Jung called this a spiritual quarantine.
Quarantine implies you're either sick or you're dangerous to others.
Or that you need to be protected from infection while you heal. During the negrito, the individual often withdraws from the world.
They might feel lost, depressed, completely aimless.
And it can look like standard depression, and sometimes it is, but often it's something deeper. It's a necessary dismantling. You have to take the Lego castle apart before you can build the spaceship.
But there is a real danger here, isn't there? The research warns about the trap of the pure eternus.
The eternal child?
Yes.
This is where the line between gestation and stagnation becomes razor thin. The pure eternus is the person who falls in love with potential but refuses to commit to any single reality.
They don't want to choose a career because it means closing off other options.
They don't want to pick a partner because it means saying no to all the other possibilities. They get stuck in the waiting room of life.
That feeling of, I'll start living my real life as soon as I'm ready.
Exactly. That is the trap. The feeling that I just need to read one more book, or I need to heal one more trauma before I can truly begin. That's the shadow side of the late bloomer.
So how do you tell the difference? How do you know if you're incubating or if you're just rotting?
It often comes down to what the research calls the provisional life. Are you living as if this is all just a dress rehearsal? The cure, interestingly enough, is usually suffering. Eventually, the pain of not living your life becomes greater than the fear of making a mistake.
But during this dark phase, something important is still happening, even if you're stuck. You're not just sitting there, you're gathering clay.
Gathering clay. I love that concept because the intuitive mind is, at its core, a synthesizer. It needs raw material to work with.
Right.
So in your 20s, 30s, you might bounce around. You study psychology for a year. Then you get obsessed with car mechanics. Then you dive deep into ancient history. Then you learn to code. But for the rare mind, you are gathering the raw materials for a synthesis that no one else, not even you, can see yet.
They're collecting dots.
You're collecting dots. You have no idea how they connect, but you're just putting them in your pocket for later.
You're collecting the pieces of a puzzle that hasn't even been invented yet.
Yes. And the assembly of that puzzle, that's what happens in the afternoon of life.
Okay, let's move into that. The turning point. Jung's afternoon. This usually kicks in around age 35 to 50. What changes here?
Everything. Absolutely everything changes. Jung called it the metanoia, a fundamental turning of the mind.
A turning.
The biological pressure starts to fade. You've either reproduced or you haven't. You've established a baseline for survival or you haven't. The nature program is finishing its run.
And now the spirit program begins.
The rules of the game completely change.
So the morning rewards speed, conformity, specialized skills. It asks, what can you do?
And the afternoon rewards wisdom, synthesis, pattern recognition, and depth. It asks a much deeper question. And so suddenly the entire playing field tilts.
It tilts in favor of the rare personality.
Precisely. The very traits that made you a failure in the morning, your tendency to overthink everything, your sensitivity, your relentless need for deep meaning, your refusal to accept surface-level answers.
All of those liabilities become your greatest assets. They become your superpowers.
Because the problems of the second half of life are more complex.
They're not technical problems anymore?
They're existential, they're cultural, they're spiritual. The world doesn't need another fast runner in the afternoon. It needs someone who knows where we are all running to. It needs navigators, not just sprinters.
The research talks about crystallized intelligence here. Can you break that down for us?
Sure. Psychologists make a distinction between fluid intelligence and crystallized intelligence. Fluid intelligence is your raw processing speed, your working memory, your reaction time. That peaks in your early 20s and then slowly declines. That's the young person's game.
That's the morning skill.
Right. But crystallized intelligence is the ability to use your accumulated knowledge, your experience, and your recognition of patterns to solve complex problems.
It's wisdom.
It's wisdom. It is the ability to connect seemingly unrelated dots. And this intelligence peaks much, much later in life, in the 50s, 60s, even 70s.
This is where the oak finally starts to tower over the grass.
The oak has finally broken the surface. And because its roots are so deep and so wide, its growth is massive and fast.
We see a shift in archetypes here as well, don't we?
A huge one. The first half of life is dominated by the hero archetype. It's about conquering, slaying the dragon, bringing back the treasure. It's all about building the ego.
And the second half?
Second half belongs to the magician. It isn't about fighting the world anymore. It's about understanding it, and through that understanding, transforming it.
The magician doesn't run around swinging a sword.
No. The magician stands still and changes reality by speaking the truth.
Stands still and changes reality.
That is the power of the rare personality in their full maturity. They don't need to hustle anymore. Their insight does the heavy lifting.
And this is where all that gathering of clay finally pays off. The research uses the term constellation for this moment.
Constellation is the perfect visual. Think of the stars in the night sky. Individually, they're just random points of light.
Right, that's your random skill in coding, your brief interest in ancient history, your painful experience with trauma. They all seem completely unrelated.
But when you step back, when you finally reach the perspective of the afternoon, you suddenly see the picture, you see the pattern, you see the constellation.
So all those random skills suddenly lock into a coherent shape.
Yes, this is the geometric alignment. The rare personality has this aha moment and realizes, oh my God, I didn't waste my 20s. I wasn't flaky.
I was building a unique combination of skills that allows me to do something that literally no one else on Earth can do.
I'm the only person who understands coding A&D ancient history and the mechanics of trauma.
And suddenly, you have a niche of one. You're not competing with anyone anymore because no one else has your specific constellation.
This brings us back to that bamboo analogy. I know it's a bit of a cliche, but it fits so perfectly here.
It's a cliche because it's so true. The Chinese bamboo tree. You plant the seed, you water it, you fertilize it.
And for 5 years, you see nothing. Absolutely nothing breaks the soil.
That must take an incredible amount of faith to just keep watering dirt for 5 years.
Immense faith.
Yeah.
But underneath the surface, that whole time, the root system is spreading horizontally and vertically, building this massive unseen foundation.
Then in the 5th year, it finally breaks the surface.
And it grows 80 feet in just 6 weeks.
So the question is, did it grow 80 feet in 6 weeks, or did it grow 80 feet in 5 years?
It grew in 5 years and 6 weeks. The visibility was just delayed. This is the core mechanic of late success. It looks sudden to the outside world.
Where did this person come from? They're an overnight success.
But it's the result of decades of silent internal architecture.
In this kind of success, it's a different quality of success, isn't it? The research calls it anti-fragile success.
This is a crucial distinction. Early success is often very fragile because it's external. It depends on the applause continuing. It depends on the market staying hot.
If the audience leaves, the person collapses because their identity was the applause.
But late success is anti-fragile because it's built on a solid internal foundation.
It's held up from the inside, not the outside.
You know who you are. You have faced your shadow. You have survived in a grado. You have rotted and been reborn.
You don't need the applause to know that you're valuable.
If the world criticizes you, you don't break. You
Nope.
might even get stronger. You have gravitas.
And no imposter syndrome.
Well, far less of it anyway, because you aren't pretending anymore. You're not wearing the mask. You are simply expressing your true nature.
You stop asking for permission to exist.
Exactly.
This leads to a fascinating point in the research about leadership. It argues that these rare souls, these late bloomers, actually make far better leaders in the second half of life.
Better than the people who have been in leadership roles since they were 20.
Why is that?
It comes down to the integration of the shadow.
We hear about shadow work a lot in pop psychology these days, but what does it actually mean in this specific context?
It means you have consciously acknowledged your own capacity for darkness. You know you're not just a nice person.
You know you have aggression, you have ambition, you have selfishness, you have a capacity for cruelty.
But instead of repressing those things and pretending they don't exist, you've integrated them. You've put a leash on the monster and brought it to heel. It now works for you.
Why does having a monster on a leash make you a better leader?
Because a leader who thinks they are purely good is incredibly dangerous.
How so?
They project their shadow onto others. They think, I am good, therefore my enemies must be pure evil. They have no boundaries because they believe they are always right.
But a leader who knows their own shadow...
They have teeth. And because they have teeth, they can be truly kind, not just nice.
Kind, not nice. That is such an important distinction.
Nice is often fear-based. Nice says, please don't hurt me, I'm harmless. A harmless person cannot truly lead or protect anyone.
But kind...
Kind is, I have the power to hurt you. I see exactly how I could dismantle you. but I am choosing to help you instead. That requires integrated power.
That's a completely different energy.
The research argues that a 20-year-old with power is dangerous because they haven't suffered enough to have real empathy and they haven't faced their shadow enough to have restraint.
But a 50-year-old late bloomer has suffered. They have empathy.
And they also have boundaries. That combination, empathy plus power, is unstoppable.
It creates that heavy presence the research mentions. They don't need to shout to get attention.
They have weight. They are grounded in reality, not in their ego. When they speak, people listen because you can feel the depth of lived experience behind the words.
And this changes their relationships too, right? The end of projection.
This is the massive relationship benefit. In the morning of life, we often use our relationships to complete ourselves.
I feel insecure, so I need you to tell me I'm pretty. Or I feel weak, so I need you to be strong for me.
We project all our unowned parts onto our partner. We're essentially using them as a prop in our own movie.
But the integrated late bloomer stops looking for a savior.
They stop searching for a soulmate to complete them. They find peace in their own wholeness. And ironically, that is the moment they become capable of real, mature love.
Because they're finally seeing the other person for who they actually are, not just what they need them to be.
Yes. The energy shifts from I need you to I choose you. That's the highest form of love.
They become the mentor instead of the needy student.
They become the wise old man or the wise old woman archetype. And God knows our culture desperately needs elders right now. Not just old people, but true elders.
People who have metabolized their experience into wisdom.
Correct.
So for the listener who is really resonating with all of this, who feels like they're stuck in that waiting room or maybe deep in the Negredo right now and just feeling like they're rotting away, what's the practical application? How do they survive the wait?
The research is very clear on this. And it's a bit of a tough love moment, I think.
Okay.
The cure for the provisional life, that constant feeling of waiting to live, is work. But not just busy work.
Bloody your hands. That was the phrase that stood out in the notes.
Yes. You must drag your intuition down from the clouds and force it into messy reality. Intuitives love the realm of ideas because ideas are perfect and clean.
In your head, the book you're writing is a masterpiece. In your head, the business plan is flawless.
But reality is messy. Reality has friction.
And intuitives hate friction.
They despise it. But you must engage with the friction. You have to write the terrible first draft. You have to launch the imperfect product. You have to have the awkward, difficult conversation.
Action over readiness.
Readiness is a myth. It's an illusion. You will never, ever feel ready. The transition from the eternal child to the master happens by acting before you feel ready.
You have to trust that the ground will appear when you step off the cliff.
That is how you build the roots. You turn the lead of your ideas into the gold of reality by putting it in the fire. You cannot think your way out of the Negredo. You have to work your way out.
And alongside that, we also need to reframe the past. I think this is maybe the most healing part of this whole deep dive.
Absolutely.
Those wasted years in your 20s and 30s.
They were not wasted. You have to stop telling yourself that story of failure. You were root building. You were gathering data. You were processing.
And there's a spiritual dimension mentioned as well, this idea that these people are often cycle breakers for their families.
This is such a profound idea for anyone who comes from a difficult or traumatic family background. Many late bloomers are the designated cycle breakers of their entire lineage.
They're the ones who are carrying the unresolved psychological debt of their parents and their grandparents.
They are the ones who were chosen, in a sense, to finally face the family trauma, the addiction, the dysfunction head on.
And that takes time. It takes a lot of energy to process that.
You can't just go out and succeed at 22 when you're busy metabolizing 3 generations of trauma. Your delay was actually a form of spiritual quarantine.
It was necessary to ensure you healed the lineage before you could move forward.
You were doing the heavy lifting so that your own children or the next generation wouldn't have to carry that same burden.
That gives so much meaning to the struggle. It's not just about you being slow, it's about you doing a massive cleanup job for your entire family tree.
You were doing the work that no one else was willing or able to do. And now that it is done, or at least mostly done, you are finally free to fly.
So, as we begin to wrap up this deep dive, let's just summarize what we've uncovered here. If you feel behind, you are not failing.
You're simply on a different timeline.
You're living the oak timeline, not the grass timeline.
The morning of life values speed, but the afternoon of life values depth. And you my friend, are built for the afternoon.
Your delay was a protection mechanism. It was there to ensure you didn't get trapped in a shed when your soul's purpose was to build a cathedral.
And now, as the clock ticks past the morning, whether you're 30 or 40 or 60, the rules of the game are changing in your favor. The world is starving for the synthesis, wisdom, and authenticity that you have spent decades cultivating in the dark.
I want to leave all of you with this one final, provocative thought from the research. The sun is strongest when it is high in the sky, but it is most beautiful when it begins its descent.
That is the beauty of the afternoon. The light is different. It's golden. It's time to stop apologizing for your depth and finally start using it.
Thank you so much for listening to this deep dive on Topicia Inner Clarity. We really hope this is giving you a new lens through which to view your own journey and maybe, just maybe, a little more patience with yourself.
It has been an absolute pleasure. Remember, you are exactly where you need to be. Just keep watering the bamboo.
Join us next time for another session where we turn the complex into the clear. Until then, take care.
Goodbye, everyone.